Hello everyone, this is the first video on this channel. Nice to meet you. I am a tutor. I started this company called RD Education, and basically my company teaches maths, English, a whole bunch of subjects. And yeah, basically in this first video I just wanted to introduce something known as algebra, and specifically algebra expressions. How do we formulate expressions from algebra and pronumerals and numbers and that sort of thing? So as you can see here, I've got a few questions here, which we'll be going through. This first one, we're not going to do all these questions. We'll, pick and choose some. You guys in the video can do the rest, and see how you go. Okay, so for this first one, 4a, if we look at this first one, we've got 1 more than x. Well, that means, if you look at more than, that means it's plus. Okay, so more than can kind of be interpreted as plus. So if you thought of like, what's 1 more than 10? It's 11, right? So if you suppose that the 10 was the x, 1 more than that would be 11. So it's kind of like x plus 11, right? In the same way, 10 plus 1 is 11. X plus 1 would also be 11 in this case because we've assumed x to be 10. So more than kind of justifies or means basically it's plus 1. Okay, so x plus 1. And similarly, if it says less than, it's going to be x minus 1. We will just do maybe like the first column here, so a to I. So if we look at the second one, double the value of u. So doubling kind of means like timesing by 2. So if you had 5, again, the way I'm going to show you is kind of with given numbers, because of course in algebra we know that it just represents some number. Here I'm just, substituting some number. So if we substituted 5 as the pronumeral, right, x or y or whatever, in this case u, double of that would be times 2, right? It would be 10. So that doubling is characterized by the times 2, okay? So essentially all you're doing is times 2, so 2u, right? And if you suppose u to be 5, then 2 times 5 equals 10, right? As we kind of thought. So one way to kind of visualize how algebra works is to substitute numbers and just figure out, okay, this is kind of the relationship between these numbers, then I can put it into an algebraic expression. This next one here is half of p. So half meaning, half. So you can think of it as like 0.5 of p, but we write it usually as half times p, right? Which can also be written as p over 2, okay? So literally half, if you had 10, half of it is 5, same sort of relationship here. G, we've got 12 less than R, and here it's very important to determine which one is first. Is it the R that's first, or is it the 12? It says 12 less, so that means minus 12, okay? So minus 12 from R. So R is going to be your starting one, okay? And it's going to be 12 less than that. Okay, so therefore it's not R minus 12. And in this final one, for I, we have got t is subtracted from 10. So again, which is our starting point, very important, is subtracted from 10. Okay, so 10 is going to be our starting point, and t is subtracted from that. So t is minus t. So subtracted means minus, and you just have to determine the order here. T is subtracted from 10, so it's minus from the 10. Okay, of course we don't know what t is. We just, we are just saying it's, some sort of pronoun, some sort of number. We're not 100% sure, but this is how we would express it. Okay, so that's complete. Those are for question 4. Now I'm just going to rub this out, and then we will have a look at question 5. So very similar sort of questions, however, maybe there's a couple more steps added for question 5. So let's do D to H. Okay, we'll do the last few here. So 5D, 3 is subtracted from K. So if we remember this, it's very similar to this in terms of the wording. 3 is subtracted from K. So something is subtracted from K. So you start from K. So if it says from K, that's kind of your starting point. And 3 is subtracted. Subtracted meaning the minus, and then 3 obviously being the number. Okay? So that's the first part, but this is multi-layered. We've got then the result is multiplied by 8. Now a common mistake here would just be to write this as K minus 3 times 8. The thing we're missing here is that this is BODMAS, right? So you would do the minus 3 times 8 first, and then you times it with the K, right? Which would be incorrect, because what the question is asking is then the result is multiplied. So when you see this result, they're referring to the result of k minus 3. Okay, so whatever k minus 3 is, then you times it by a. So that is why we want to put a bracket around the k minus 3 and then times it by a. Okay. Then we've got the sum of x and y is multiplied by 6. I do like doing these underlines, but sometimes it makes it a little bit hard to see. For e, we've got, the sum of x and y is multiplied by 6. So sum of x and y, sum means plus, so x plus y. And the sum of that is multiplied by 6. And again, you're going to notice this thing is different to this thing. Okay, these are two different things. Why are they different? Because in this instance, you would do y times 6 and then plus x, whereas here you do x plus y and then times 6. So for this question, it's the sum of x and y is multiplied. So in this case, you want this to be added because that's what it says in the question, right? It says the sum of x and y, and then you want that result to be multiplied. So we can kind of determine, it's kind of similar to question D here, in that they want the result. Even though it doesn't say they want the result of x and y, you can just think that they want the result because, of course, that total is going to be multiplied by 6. All right, then we'll go to F. X is multiplied by 7 and the result is halved. Okay, first part is easy. X times 7. I'll do these ones, the little curly lines for the x because the x and the times are similar. So x times 7 is, we usually write this as 7x rather than x7. Usually put the number first. And the result is halved. So again, you want 7x to be together because they're talking about the result, and then it's halved, so we're just going to divide by 2. Okay. It's the same as this, but this just turns into 7x over 2. It's exactly the same thing. Now I've got G. So P is halved and then 2 is added. So just like the previous one, we've got P is like the first starting point, and then it's halved. So halved meaning divide by 2. It's also the same as 0.5p, but we can just easily write it as p over 2. And then 2 is added, plus 2. Right, because you've just added, whatever the result of p over 2 was, you've added 2 to that result. P is halved and then 2 is added. Alright, and then the last one, we might be running out of space. Actually, I'll just move this down. For h, the product of x and y is subtracted from 12. So the product of x and y, product actually means multiplication. Okay, so x and y is x times y, which we can just simply write it as xy. Let me just move this down a tad bit further. Okay, so the product of x and y is xy, and then is subtracted from 12. Again, we've got this thing from 12. So subtracted means minus, and then we've got the number. But it says from 12. So x and y is subtracted from 12. Okay, so therefore it's 12 minus xy. Okay, because 12 is where we're starting because it's subtracted from 12. If you thought of, let's think about, I don't know, let's say 6 is subtracted from 12. So the wording here is very critical and it can be a bit confusing. So 6 is subtracted from 12, right? It would be 12 minus 6 because 6 would be subtracted from the original 12. It's the same concept here. xy is subtracted from the original 12. That's why we do 12 minus xy. Okay. So oftentimes students have trouble with thinking about the wording there, but yeah, from 12 generally means that that number 12 is going to be the starting point. All right, let's continue with some worded problems. So these were just, kind of easier problems where they kind of tell you what you need to do. Whereas in the next few, in these problems, the worded problems here, we kind of have to figure out how are we going to approach it? What are we going to do? Are we going to multiply, divide, plus, minus, that kind of thing? Okay, so we're going to kind of apply our knowledge to these questions. So for question 7, Nicholas buys 10 lolly bags from a supermarket. A says if there are 7 lollies in each bag, how many lollies does he buy in total? So we can draw this if you want. So 10 lolly bags. So we've got one. My lolly bags are square or rectangular for whatever reason, because I can't actually draw lolly bags, but let me just quickly draw these 10 lolly bags, okay? They are represented by this weird looking rectangle square shape. So we've got 10 here, 7 in each bag. So you can draw the 7, I could be bothered. I'm just gonna say that there are 7 lollies in each of these bags, okay? So how many lollies does he buy in total? Well, basically what's happening here is if we want to find the total, we could add it, right? You could just do 7 plus 7 plus 7, etc. However, there's a faster way of doing it. We could just do 7 times 10, right? There's 10 lots of 7. If you think about it with rows, there's 10 lots of 7. So 10 lots of 7s are 7 times 10, so 70. Okay, so that's the answer for A. And then for B, we've got if there are n lollies in each bag, how many lollies does he buy in total? So here we're going to basically, instead of writing 7, we're going to write n. Because in the first question, there was 7 lollies in each bag. In this question, there's n, right? And n is a pronumeral. We don't know what that equals to. So we're just going to write it as n. Okay, these are all n. So it's some number, we're not sure. And basically, write an expression. It gives us a hint. Write an expression involving n. So remember in the previous one, basically we times it by 10. But here we're going to times by 7 because there are n lots of 7. 10 times n. Because there are 10 of these, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But there's 10. We don't know how much that is, right? If it's 8, it'd be 10 times 8. If it's 9, 10 times 9. If it's 7, like here, it would be 10 times 7. However, there's n. So we don't know what that is. So we're just going to write it as n, 10n. Okay, so that's an expression to solve how many lollies. You can even say 10n equals, amount of lollies in the bag, kind of thing. Okay, all right, so let's continue on and let's do question 8. Let me just rub this out for you. Just give me a second. Okay, so question 8. Michaela is paid X dollars per hour at her job. So we're going to let X equal dollars per hour, right? Her wage, her hourly income. Write an expression for each of the following. So for 8A, how much does Michaela earn if she works 8 hours? So if she was to work 8 hours, if we thought about it, if you work a job, right, and you get paid like $15 per hour, and you worked 8 hours, right? You could just times this by 8, right? Obviously, you could plus it if you wanted to be slow, but we wouldn't want to do that. So 15 times 8, right? If you worked 8 hours and you earned $15, 15 times 8 is 120. So that's how much you'd earn. We can kind of use that same type of understanding to this question. So if I worked 8 hours, it would be 8 times, in the previous part it was 15, as we supposed, but here we've got x as our hourly rate. So it's 8 times x, which equals 8x. Remember in algebra, this multiplication is kind of invisible when we want to write it. There is a kind of imaginary multiplication in there, but we don't usually write it, okay? So that would be, that would be your answer, 8x. Moving on to B. If Michaela gets a pay rise of $3 per hour, what is her new hourly wage? So remember her previous hourly wage was X, right? And she increased that, gets a pay rise. A pay rise, we can interpret this as a plus, right? If you get 3 more than 5, you get 8, that's plus 3, right? If your weekly wage was 5, if your hourly wage was 5, sorry. So we can think of that as plus 3, X plus 3. So her new hourly wage is this, it's X plus 3 equals hourly wage. Okay? And then for C, I will just move this down a little bit, just so it's a little bit clear to see. All right. Michaela works for 8 hours at the increased hourly rate. How much does she earn? Okay, so we remember in the previous question, for 8 hours, she earned 8x, right? So we determined, we can say the daily rate or daily income. Let's just assume this 8 hours was how much she worked in that day, equals the amount of hours times the hourly rate. Okay, that's how much she would earn. And in the previous question, remember, we thought it was 8x because 8 was the amount of hours, x is the amount of income. So now, well, we've got the same amount of hours. We've still got 8 hours. So 8 is going to be the amount of hours still. So we can kind of say we've done that. Times the hourly rates and the increased hourly rate. So in the previous question, we determined the increased hourly rate was this, x plus 3. So we're going to do 8 times x. I'll do curly for the x there as well. 8x plus 3. And you can just leave it like this. Alright, 8x plus 3. Alternatively, you can expand if you've learned how to expand. I'm not sure if you have. If you've if you've started this, you probably learn that a bit later. But when you do expanding, you just multiply the first number with the outside and the second number with the outside individually. So it'd be 8x plus 24. And that is it. That would be her hourly wage. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you did, or if you learned something. I would really appreciate that. Of course, this is my company, RD Education. If you want some more personalized advice, you can go down in the description and click on the website, and you can sign up for classes if you'd like. I'd be more than welcome and more than happy to teach anyone. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is my first video, so thanks for watching. All right, bye bye.